Are we here?
Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. We're on the iPad today. Oh, wait. We've been talking for like a solid 5, or 10 seconds.
I wonder if anyone heard that.
I don't know if anyone heard it, but it was a stellar intro.
Yeah.
We're on the iPad today, so we're doing things a little differently. This is exciting. It feels fancier just because it's bigger.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, nothing's really different. It's just bigger.
It is. Like my picture's bigger, the text is bigger. It's just exciting, and I feel really, really fancy. Hi to everybody that is chatting in the Discord. I see people saying woohoo, and fun things like that. So thanks for joining us today. We just had a really fun stream on Twitch too.
Yeah.
It was just nice and refreshing, and it always feels good. I look forward to Wednesdays because it's my day when I feel like I get to kind of take a pause from anything that I'm creating or working on, and just I get to exist and talk to my fans and talk to you, and I quite enjoy it. But I'm a little offended. I found out my mom doesn't listen to my show.
What?
Yeah, I was
Why?
I'm sorry. Wait, mother, you birthed me.
Wait, does she have a reason?
I think she just was like, oh, right, you do that. I haven't downloaded that app. By the way, my mom is the most supportive.
She is.
So when I say that, it sounds like, oh, but granted, if she comes, she'll come out to every tour, and she insists on watching, she wants to see at least 7 shows. That's my mom. So it's just cracked me up when she's just like, oh, no, you have that radio thing. I've never listened. I was like, Mom!
Your mom is one of the most honest people I've ever met. She's brutally honest in a beautiful, wholesome way.
She is very, there's no, filter's the wrong word. It's just, she's very, she sees things very black and white. Almost never
sugarcoating.
Literal. That's a word for my mother.
Yes. Yeah.
She, sarcasm. If you're joking about something, sometimes she's just like, wait, what? Really? And you're like, no, Mom. My mom is so literal.
Yeah.
And I definitely have a string of that in me.
A little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
I had an ex that would constantly remind me that, you don't have to be so, literal and on the nose about everything. I'm like, I'm sorry. And then he met my mom, and he goes, I understand you.
I get it
so much. Don't you love it, though, when you meet someone's parents, like a friend, but especially a significant other? Yeah. I feel like it tells the whole unspoken story that you didn't know you needed.
Oh, when I met my boyfriend's parents, I was like, I get it.
Yes. Okay, what part did you get? I'm curious.
His family's very quiet. They're very, very good. They just kind of have this wholesome existence.
Yeah.
They don't talk deeply about their feelings. And so when I met my boyfriend and I would try to talk deeply about my feelings, he wouldn't quite know how to reply. And I think I gave him kind of wrongly. I shouldn't have, but I gave him a really hard time for it, for a good chunk of time. And then I met his parents, and I was like, oh, I get it.
This is how you were created and raised and molded to be.
These were the tools you were given in life, and I have asked too much of you.
Yeah. And it's I just need to give you a little more grace.
Yeah,
I remember when I met my ex's family, I went to a family reunion. And they were the opposite of quiet. Yeah. They were a rowdy bunch of boys. He had 5 brothers and 1 sister, and they're all married, and they all had kids. It was a lot, but it made me be like, okay, I understand the energy that I am throttled with on a daily basis.
We are products of our upbringing. That is for
100%. I want to pause just for a second to just, and I know this is everywhere, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of people are like, I can't escape it right now, and it's heavy, but I just want to talk briefly about the shooting that happened and just give my condolences, and I really don't think there is anything more important that we could possibly talk about. And I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to say, except for for anyone that's feeling pain right now, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't think this should ever feel normal. And I know that a lot of times we all have that feeling of what can I do?
Oh yeah.
And I don't know the answer, but I do know that I've seen people posting, and I reposted. That's the best sometimes you can do is repost the people that know what to do.
Yeah.
So if you go to my story right now, there's instructions of how you can call your senator, and it's actually really easy, and I did it, to just ask them to make a change, and you can look up your senator, you call a number, you just leave a voicemail, tell them you don't need a response, and we can make a difference. And it's by asking. And so I just want to urge you guys to do something,
Yeah.
because that's always better than nothing.
Even if if you can't do that, then, get online and start researching, good stuff, start researching things that are sourced and backed, and, start educating yourself on like statistics and whatnot, and be a voice for change in that way,
Also, I feel like I used to not see the major election of the president.
Yeah.
I used to think that was the most important one, but no. Your local elections, that's where the real changes are made. So anyways, I just want to give my condolences to anyone who's feeling pain right now, to mothers that are now afraid. Like I saw my sister posting about how scared she is to like send her kids to school. And I just, it's a scary time. And anyways, this whole gun control issue, I've had an interesting perspective on it because I was raised very, very conservative. And I used to be like, no, of course, everyone like should be allowed to own a gun. And I thought that gun control meant that wasn't possible. And like, the government was going to come and take all of our guns. I didn't even have a gun. I didn't want a gun, but there was something in the way I was raised that was like, but I don't want the government taking my guns. But it's like, wait, in hindsight and in learning, I realized that's not what gun control means. Lindsey, shame on you for not educating yourself. But, once I became an adult, like educating myself, and there is a lot of power and a lot of like comfort that comes in. And I know sometimes it can be shameful, but in realizing, oh, wow, I was really wrong on this in the past. I had back in my, when I first voted, I voted in a way I would never vote now. And there is power in realizing that we can change and realizing that maybe I was wrong in the past, and that doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
Not at all. And I would argue that makes you an incredibly emotionally mature person to be able to change your opinion on something based on current stats and information available.
And also just realizing that the way that I once thought doesn't mean I have to change is amazing to evolve and to say, wow, I learned something new. And, we are at a point where it's like, this can't go on anymore. How many more times do children and innocent people at grocery stores have to die? So anyways, I don't know if you have any other thoughts you want to share on that. It's a tough topic.
It's a tough topic. Yeah, we've cried a lot in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Lindsey is an extreme empath. I am an empath. Lindsey is an extreme empath. So, this is
it's been hard, especially when you realize that, you can vote and you can educate, but in the end, without the movement of a community, as an individual, it's difficult to make change. And so I think sometimes people can get a little burnt out, feeling like they're trying so hard for change and it's just not doing anything. And I think that burnout is incredibly dangerous because,
we need people like that.
We do. We need it. And, I encourage everybody right now who cares about babies to vote in a way that, stops our babies from being killed in terror acts like that.
And one thing I really liked that someone posted, it was actually my sister, and she posted something that talked about a lot of people that are on the, the side where they don't want gun control. They say this isn't a gun issue, it's a mental health issue. And they are right halfway. Yes, it is a mental health issue. It's a both issue.
It's a both issue.
You don't stop drunk driving and say, well, it's a mental health problem because, the person, it's like, well, it's both.
It's both.
And that's exactly why we need to put certain stipulations. That's all it is. Into play. And
we have to go through very long classes to get a driver's license. We have to go through years and years and years of schooling to be able to cut someone open and perform surgery. We have to go through training in a lot of ways in our life. There should be
our riggers that take us up in the air. They're holding life in their hand, and so they have to go through extensive training. If you have something that destroys life in your hand,
you better be qualified to do it.
And there should be a process. Anyways, I'll get off the soapbox.
No, I think it's good. I think the one last thing I would add is that it's important for people to realize it's not a 0 or 100 issue. It's not a binary 100%. Issue. It is an issue that has many roots and many sides and many, it's not just one or the other. It is all of those things. And so I encourage everybody to try and observe themselves and see if they are on an extreme end of the spectrum. And maybe try and understand a way to not be so extreme, but to work towards change without,
Yeah. I think that's a really good point that you just made there, because I've realized anytime I've found myself on the extreme end of anything, I've usually come around to realize that that's probably not the best place to be.
Yeah.
And so anytime I'm feeling super passionate about the far end, it's like, okay, I should look at the other side, because there's always a valid argument for the other side. And there's always like I used to see things very black and white in every way in my life. Like this meant you were a good person, this meant you were bad. And it was like, just everything was so black and white. And as I've grown, I realized that there's a huge gray area where we can usually find a pretty solid common ground of safety and of understanding. And I wish that that was alive and well a little bit more in our society.
Yeah,
in everything, in religion, in politics, like everything doesn't have to be so polarizing.
No, not at all. And I could say more, but I want to.
All right. We'll leave our soapbox.
I want to not alienate anybody or anything.
Well, I hope people all realize that this is our perspective, and it's our opinions. But at the same time, like I said, I get it. I used to be a person that was like, gun control is bad.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, that was a mean voice to give that. I'm sorry, that was rude. I might as well say it like I did. Okay. Sorry, that's not what I meant. I just say I used to be, in that same mindset. So I understand where people are coming from. It's scary when you feel like people are taking from you. Yeah. And, that no one wants to feel like something's been taken away. And,
I'll just gently say one last thing. And that is that I often hear people saying that having a gun is their God-given right. And I look I was, for people who don't know, I almost became a nun. So I have a very deep and long history in the Christian church.
Which actually wasn't none. I went on a mission.
Well, see, I never went on a mission.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to one-up you.
Okay. We relate on a lot of this.
I was trying to relate. It totally sounded like a
no.
Okay, sorry.
I went from, almost becoming a nun to being quite the opposite, really. Just in my my best. Yeah. But I will say, a lot of people, argue that having a gun is their God-given right. And my response to that is, I don't think Jesus ever advocated for people holding guns. And I don't think God ever wanted people to wield weapons in that way. And so I guess that is what I always challenge people to really observe, is that if they really feel that it's their God-given right, have that conversation with God.
Yeah.
And that's probably the one thing that I feel most passionately about, is like, hey, if you feel this way, talk with God and kind of go inwards. And if that's how you truly feel, that's a conversation to have.
I wish I had been taught that a little bit stronger growing up, this idea of like, you may be taught something, and I was always taught to like pray and ask God.
Yeah.
But I always felt like I had to come out with the answer that I was told I was supposed to come out with.
Right.
Pray and ask God if this is true. Oh, well, the obvious answer is yes, it's true. Yeah. But it's been really eye-opening as an adult to realize that I think in the past, maybe my relationship with religion was too strong and my relationship with God was a little too weak.
Yeah.
And and in the last few years, I've kind of flipped it. I'm still a religious person, but I put way more emphasis on the actual conversation with God and my gut and my, and so like what you're saying is like we're taught things where we're told this is right, this is wrong. Yeah. Maybe really lean in and like, aside from the religion, aside from the politics, like asking yourself, is this good? Is this right? Yeah. Is this true for me and my life? Because we all live different lives. But okay, sidebarring that conversation, I'm going to push that way to the side. And guys, we have such a cool guest today. I'm so excited to talk to him. His name is Jake Wesley Rogers. And have you listened to his music yet?
It's so fun.
It is so fun. Okay, I'm glad you listened to it. It's like a celebration. Yeah. And it's the really fun combination of theatrical and like colorful. And I don't know, it's amazing. And I've been jamming out to it this week as I've been kind of like, thinking about what I wanted to talk about. So I want to bring him in, Jake Wesley Rogers. I'm inviting him into the convo right now. And I'm so excited to just pick his brain as an artist.
Absolutely.
And, like, find out his process. I love talking to artists to find out like what their process is.
Yes.
Every artist is so different. But hi, Jake. Can you hear us?
Hi. I'm here. Hi, Linda. Hello.
Hello. Where are you calling from today?
I am in Los Angeles.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're neighbors. I'm right down the street from you.
Are you in LA too? Oh, great. Is my audio okay? I'm so sorry. I hear it feeding back.
Oh, is it feeding back? We hear you well. Are we?
Okay, good. Just making
Okay.
sure. You know, you think 2 years into like remote calls and I would have this a little bit figured out, but I don't.
Well, it's funny because whenever anyone has like a new app or a new way to like, we're using Blue Jeans instead of Zoom, I'm like, no, please, please just do the Zoom. Like, don't make me download another thing. Like, so I totally get it, and I appreciate you downloading yet another app. I appreciate all of our listeners today downloading another app to be here today.
And it looks like our audience says the audio sounds good. So,
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
We heard it from the people. You sound
The
great.
people have spoken. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, okay, you have been playing music and performing from a very young age. And so I'm just curious, like, kind of when you started and where did your inspiration and drive come from?
Yeah, I mean, I started really young. I think I'm one of those strange people that I never really had stage fright. I think I had like stage eagerness. and my parents were really smart, and they put me in theater when I was really young to sort of in a safe and controlled environment fulfill my perhaps egoic and soulful needs to perform and do that and love music and then that just kind of that morphed into writing. I was in middle school and I became obsessed with Adele and Lady Gaga and Regina Spektor and sort of these fierce singer-songwriter powerful people and it just led me to the piano and I just became obsessed with telling my story and letting songs sort of be something that reveals something to myself about myself and using that as a tool to like to connect with other people too. And and it still happens. I still get surprised by songs and
Ooh, tell me more about that. What do you mean? Like, so sometimes you're writing a song and what do you mean by it surprises you?
I think the best emotion in general is surprise. I've been thinking of this a lot lately because it means it's sudden, like the reality that you thought you had is suddenly different. And I think that's when life is interesting. And there's no better feeling than when you're writing a song and something comes out and you didn't see it coming. And I think when that happens, I think that means it's a truth that's so deep that my brain couldn't even process it yet. It's just, just awesome, and that's what I'm looking for. Someone who just wants to be inspired. I just we spend so long sort of scrolling and doing all these things and kind of getting a routine, and then when something really jolts you, I think it's one of the best feelings. But maybe that's like the Sagittarius in me. I don't know.
I will say it is so funny. Sometimes looking back at like art that I made years ago and I maybe haven't seen it in a while, I do think it's funny when I'm like, wow, I was so wise in that moment when I made that or thought of that.
Yeah.
Like there's something that you're right. Sometimes art brings out almost like a much more thoughtful side of all of us and a much more like mature, wise side as we like really dig into those deeper parts of ourselves. And I love how you say you love being surprised by something. Like I was just reading this book about Mr. Rogers' life, and he's amazing. And it talked about how he was such a proponent of being curious and wonder. Wonder was the word, where he lived his life in wonder. And when he would meet someone, he would be in awe of the way they were or the way they spoke or how much they knew, like if it was a child, how much they knew about the color red. And like, he just lived in a place of wonder and being surprised by life. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And hearing you speak about how songs do that for you totally made me think of Mr. Rogers.
No.
I'm a different Mr. Rogers. Definitely not as iconic as that Mr. Rogers, but
yeah, maybe not yet.
That Mr. Rogers, he was an alien, and so what I mean by that is that the way he saw the world was so childlike and whimsical, and he didn't lose it, and it changed the world. He was radical. His kindness was radical, and I'm so inspired by that. I'm so inspired by that.
I know. It's a really good book. It's called The Mr. Rogers Effect. And anyways, if you're inspired by Mr. Rogers, I highly recommend it. It was so good. And it just left me feeling so sweet inside after I want to be sweet like Mr. Rogers.
I just want to be kind.
100%. Like our world would change if everybody learned a little bit from that and just made their first response like kindness. Like you said, I want to be kind.
It's I will definitely read that. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah. So can you talk to us about some of your first memorable musical moments? I mean, especially since you started performing at such a young age, like, do you have some specific moments that you can look back to as some of your first or most memorable as a kid?
That's an awesome question. One of the first, because we grew up and our parents show us music and we hear the music on the radio and that's all beautiful. But I think one of the first bands I just became obsessed with on my own, not because anyone was telling me to listen to, it was My Chemical Romance when I was in fifth grade. They just put out the Black Parade record. And I just made my mom rinse that record with me, it was just in the car. And looking back, I think what I loved about it is, and perhaps maybe I'm kind of realizing maybe I'm kind of trying to do that, it was so theatrical and it was larger than life, and it told a story. And I don't know if you remember their music videos, but they just went all out in the music videos to tell this story of the Black Parade. And it was really dark. It was really dark. The songs were about death and cancer and what we do when we're gonna die. And it's kind of funny. I was obsessed with that when I was 10. But I think I was because it showed what life is. It showed that life is this thing that is going to end, and we get to sort of play dress up and sing songs in the meantime. And they were kind of the first big band for me. And from there, I mean, Lady Gaga was very big for me in middle school, just as a little gay boy in the Bible Belt, to have this sort of fierce woman, standing on stage and being such an advocate for the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
That mattered, that really mattered to me. When she won her VMA in when I was in sixth grade, she said, "This is for God and the gays." I was like,
I love that.
Whoa.
You know what? And it's for people to be like, whoa, who knew those could be used in the same sentence, at the time.
Yes. Yeah, it was radical, just like Mr. Rogers. It was radical in a different way.
I love that. Gaga and Rogers just radically showing acceptance and love. So you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I feel like, kind of iconography and visuals that you represent in your music kind of show some ties to faith and spirituality, and they're like themes that run through your music. So can you expand on what that means to you and how it influences your work and your approach?
Yeah. I grew up, like I said, in the Bible Belt, but my family we weren't fundamental Christians. We were Methodist, which is pretty chill for the most part. And I think more than anything, though, it was around me. And the town I lived in, Missouri, it was basically run by a Pentecostal megachurch, and most of the people in my school went there, and I would go there with friends, and it was kind of, and the big turning point for me in what I believed was when I was 17. I was just about to leave Missouri, but my town passed this law. Well, my town had passed an anti-discrimination law, which basically meant that gay couples can buy houses and trans people can use the bathroom that matches their gender identity. It was kind of just that. And it kind of passed and no one really noticed, because it was kind of just well, duh. yeah. And then about a year later, this mega church kind of made it their whole mission for about 6 months to protest this, and said that there will be men in your little girls' bathrooms, and made signs with like big men. And it was all completely false, and had no, no research to back up that this is what happens. And
Right.
and this law ended up being overturned. And I just sort of, it was a shocking moment for me, because I just realized how far away from faith a lot of these institutions are. And I'm not trying to dog on anything, because, as I sit here in my living room, like, for some reason, I'm obsessed with Jesus paintings. I look out and I see like 7 in front of me. Like, I just have them all over. And to get to that, I sort of have, I don't want to call it trauma necessarily, but complications with the organization of religion. But I go, and I think it's one of my missions in life, and I don't know why, but I think it's one of my missions in life to interpret religious texts, holy texts, and view it sort of as these stories that tell us so much. And I think that's why, like, when I look at, I hope I'm not going on too much of a tangent, but, I have this painting of Jesus at Gethsemane, and that's the night that he prays to God and says, I don't want to die. He says, yeah, it's like my spirit's willing, but my flesh is weak, and God doesn't answer. And just that as a story, just that is like if we were just to read that in a book, like, that is one of the most human and powerful moments everyone has in their life. Whether they realize they need to leave their wife, or they need to get out of an abusive situation, or just do something that seems impossible, and they say, I can't do this, but I know I have to. I have to crucify myself in order to resurrect. And I just kind of geek out over these stories, and they live in me, and I don't know why. And I don't really question it. That was a long answer, but
That was an incredible answer.
I'm like getting emotional listening to you talk about it. And okay, here's what I love so much about what you just shared, is that, like, what a, like, I don't know, forgiving nature you must have, and a pure nature, that religion is something that you could look at and say, like, oh my gosh, you hurt me and you're evil. But instead you've chosen to take from it these stories that have made you more empathetic and made you feel like you can find like lessons in these stories. And it's also an interesting approach. Like, I had a bit of a faith crisis, several years ago. I was raised Mormon, and and actually, much because of the LGBTQ plus issue, I was like, I don't know if I can stay in this religion that doesn't necessarily support this group of people. And it really tore my soul apart, because I've always loved my faith. And I came to this realization that I didn't have to hate my religion just because I didn't agree with certain parts of it. And I didn't have to turn my back on them. Rather, I wanted to stick around and be a part of the good things in it, and be a part of a change to make people realize, like, I see God as someone who accepts all. I see God as someone who encourages us to love with our whole hearts. That's the version of God that I know. And I'm going to stick around in this to continue to share that message, rather than just like running away from it all. And I don't know, I felt like, I don't know if that's what you were saying, but the way you described it related so strongly to a place I found myself as well, and how these stories, they can give us so much strength when we see them in a more open perspective. I don't know if that's really, what you're talking about. But
it is. It's powerful, and thank you for sharing that. And there is something to be said about being a part of the change. And I don't go to church, but I have found a level of spirituality that am within almost all the time, and and that for me, you know, that's what it is. And for me, my shows and my concerts, I want it to feel like, because there's so many people that don't feel safe to go to church, you know. And
100%.
and I know I'm kind of sound like a cult leader, and I don't want it to sound like.
No,
I'm like no, you don't have to buy in, but I do want I want my performances and concerts to sort of be this place where, you know, there's a psychologist that calls it collective effervescence, and that's the feeling of being in a room with people who are all experiencing the same thing. And everyone's sort of soul is lifting, whether it's like a Coldplay concert or like, I don't know, some sort of tabernacle, you know. It's like, but it's a thing, and I think music can do that. And I say it's secular, but I actually don't think it is.
No, 100%.
You know.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. When you're in a concert or when you're in a sports arena and everybody's there for the same purpose, or whether you're meditating with a group of people or in church, like that's the reason I think religion is there, is so that people can find commonality and community and support. And so I think, you know, I like I said, I was raised to believe that there was one true church, and I'm come to this belief that it's like, oh, you know, truth is in everything, and you can find it in all sorts of places. And, you know, and I still go to church, but it's like, that's a place where I find comfort. That's not for everybody. And I love that you consider your concerts like a place of commonality and people can feel accepted. And I did look up some videos of your performances, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to a show. I'm so excited to see a live show now. Yeah, like you're a performer.
That means a lot coming from you, because you're a performer.
Oh, thank you.
You are.
Well, thank you so much. So, I mean, you said you were in musical theater as a kid, and it's obvious you understand like being on stage and connecting with an audience. You know, but one thing that's so like just striking about your performances is the way that you portray yourself, your outfits, like your makeup, your hair, like your artwork, like everything is so striking in all your photos and your live concerts. So I'm just like, what goes into trying to figure out these looks? Like, is it something you're super passionate about, or is it more of a stylist that's doing it for you? Like, how does that work for you?
I'm very passionate about it. I'm very visual. You know, like when I was a kid, I kind of, before I started singing, I was really into visual art, and I still am. And actually, a lot of times, like before I even have the songs, I kind of have I'm sure a lot of people listening will understand, I have many Pinterest boards just going on, just out in the ether. And it's kind of the visuals that sometimes bring the songs out. So, you know, when it comes time to pick the stage costumes, it's usually just like, okay, what's gonna make me feel like a superhero for an hour? Let's wear that. Let's wear that. Because that's what it is, you know. It's interesting because, you know, on one hand it's like, yeah, you're putting on this costume, is that really you? And I'm like, actually, yeah, like that's how I feel on the inside. You know, I feel glittery, and also I don't, you know, I also don't feel brave, and it can help you feel more brave. I lived in Nashville for like 5 years, and you know, there's a lot of days where you're in Nashville, and you know, Nashville's the South. It's sort of homogenous. It's kind of a certain style. It's not like LA where like you could literally wear a giraffe costume and nobody would blink. But you know, in Nashville, I kind of found that. I found like I'd kind of wear these crazy outfits to class sometimes, to sort of like to lift my spirit up to where I wanted to feel. Fashion's sort of always been like, even since a little, you know, like just put on my dad's clothes, put on my mom's clothes, put on both. And it's just dress up. It's all dress up. All of this, you know. So why not wear something you love?
Jake, I feel like we're best friends. We're just finally meeting, because like so
meeting.
I'm like, oh my gosh, me too. I love like kind of like that fake it till you make it. Like, well, yeah, maybe sometimes I am feeling a little bit shy, or like I am a little bit nervous to go on stage for some reason tonight. But you put on that outfit and you do, you put your hair up and you put on your makeup and suddenly you embody, like, it's not like we're pretending to be someone else. It's just bringing out this side of you that maybe was a little bit sleepy that day and needed a little help being brought out. And it's like I almost become like a heightened version of a part of myself when I step onto that stage, and it's really fun to like wake her up, whether she's already awake or not. It's like time to go. And sometimes costumes, like I feel like it's one of the best ways to do that.
For sure. And I just, I like more the merrier. Like last summer I was playing the smallest stage at Lollapalooza, and I did 3 costume changes because why would I wait for the biggest stage? I honestly believe it's doing stuff like that will hopefully get me there. Like just doing what you want to do. And I think it's advice I wish I would have got, but I guess I just started doing it. But if I was to give any unsolicited advice to anyone listening that wants to do anything crazy, is just start. This idea of manifestation is a huge thing, but you just start sort of living, if you can, the way in which you want to live, and that is a manifestation in of itself. In little ways, it takes time. Sorry, I was talking on top of you. No.
I love manifestation, and I do think that that's one of the most important pieces. It's like after you've thought it in your mind, after you've visualized it and like thrown it out into the universe, it's like, well, let's start doing it. I love that you did 3 costume changes on the smallest stage.
I love that.
I freaking love that. And it reminds me of an interview I heard of Donnie and Marie Osmond, like legendary, iconic performers. And they were given I think like a month-long residency Vegas show with a tiny budget. And this is after they've proven themselves for years. They were like massive stars their whole lives. And they were like, we are going to perform as if we are on the biggest stage in the world and as if we've been hired to do this show for 2 years. Well, guess what? That show still exists because they acted like they were on the biggest stage in the world, and they made it happen. And so I love that. And because of that attitude, you will be on the biggest stage at Lollapalooza. And I'm excited for you to tell that story on stage as you make like 20 costume changes.
It's funny. I used to work for the Jonas Brothers way back in the day, and they had the exact same mindset. They always said, it doesn't matter how small the stage is, we're going to treat it like it's an arena. So even when they were playing in front of 10 people, so long as they had that energy, they manifested it, and they made it happen. They made everyone believe it.
I love that.
You have to believe it. You have to, I mean, that's obviously there's always a level of fate or luck, whatever you want to call it, and stuff like this. But I think the real power is, I think manifestation is the humanness in you interacting with whatever divine you believe in, if you believe in any divine or the universe. It's like the Sistine Chapel painting of the hand of Adam reaching the hand of God. Like I think of that a lot. That's what we're doing here, right? Maybe.
I think I love how visual you are, because it's like, that connects to me.
Yeah,
like, for sure, I can see it.
Absolutely.
And like I feel my little heart reaching out all the time.
Yes.
So I feel like manifestation means something very different to like different people. It's like we all kind of know what it means, but like, what does that mean to you? Like when you say I'm going to manifest this, like what is the step, or like what does that mean to you?
Well, I do believe it works, just because I've seen it happen, and it sometimes freaks me out. To catch it, so left Missouri, kind of left religion, kind of left all of that, and then I got into Enneagram, and then I got into astrology, and then I kind of took a pretty witchy left turn, and got tarot cards and all of this, crystals and altar, and I do love it all, and it's kind of all feels like the same thing, but we can talk that later. But manifestation, it is a buzzword for sure. It's a word that when you're walking through LA, you'll probably hear like 14 people like speaking like at any cafe at any given time. So I'm fully aware of that. But for me, it's something practical. And you know what? I think the most, so my manager I've worked with for 5 years, just love him to death. And he's probably one of the most level-headed people I know, and definitely doesn't have a altar with crystals and tarot cards and everything. But one thing we started doing early on, one of the first things we did is okay, this year, what do we want to do? And then if we're to imagine next year, what do we want to do? And when we just talk about it, and he takes all his notes and he writes it in an email and says, 2017, blah, 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 2018, blah, 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 blah. And you write it down, and then you just kind of forget about it. And you just work, and you just sort of believe. And the past 2 years have last year specifically was remarkably spooky in this kind of the specific ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And things that don't even matter. Like, it'd be like, it'd be big things of like, I want to open for someone on a big tour or blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why. I don't know how, but a lot of them just happened. And I think it's just because like you don't obsess over the idea of it. You obsess over doing what you have control over, which is the work and the songs and the art and just kind of believing that maybe.
I think that's the hardest part for people in manifesting, and like, because I'm a big believer in manifesting, and I've recently been like, I'm getting back in the trenches because I'm gonna manifest some things. And one of the hardest parts though is the letting go of it. Like you place your order, and it's like if you're at a restaurant, you don't place your order with the waitress, and then every time you catch your eye, you're not like, hey, is my food ready? For like 30 minutes. But if you did, like, she would be super annoyed and be like, I'm gonna spit in your food when it comes. But so I sometimes need to remind myself, like, you place your order, you manifest it, you believe that it's coming, and then you have to have that surrender of like, I'm not saying I'm giving up, I'm not surrendering in that way. I'm giving trust that it will come when it's ready. And I think
love
that's
that word surrender.
Sorry, what?
I was saying I love the word surrender. I think that's one of the best words. And it makes me think of, I love Oprah too. I think that's one of the best words, but surrender, she tells this story of, she was auditioning for The Color Purple, the film that she was ultimately in and starred in. And she'd done like 8 auditions, and she wanted it so bad. She said she wanted it more than anything she's ever wanted. And 8 auditions, and then sort of crickets. Like, she didn't get any answer. And she was starting to freak out. And she's calling her agent. She's just like, come on, how did I not get this? Like, we've all had that feeling, right? And she said, one day she finally, she goes on a run. And on the run, she let go of it. She let go of it completely. She said, I surrender. Like, if I'm supposed to have this, I'll have this. And she says, right when she got back home, she got the call that she got the part. And I just think that's so powerful. And I actually do think those things are connected. The feeling of like, if you hold something too tightly, you choke it, we must be gentle with the things we want, I think.
I love that. We have to be gentle with the things we want, because they'll come when they're supposed to,
Yeah.
And usually they come in the best way possible. And honestly, I think one of my best experiences in learning to surrender and let go of something was actually on America's Got Talent. And I want to bring that up because you as well, and we're so similar. I think you made it to the quarterfinals, right?
Yeah, it's in the middle of our Venn diagram.
Right. That's so well put, because I was as well a quarterfinalist on AGT, and so wow. I'm so curious. How was that experience for you?
I think I've heard you actually talk about it before, so I think we have a similar experience in that it is complicated, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I was 16. I was 15, sorry. I was 14 when I auditioned. I was 15. And I was in Missouri, and And at that point I thought like, okay, I sing songs, this is what you do, like, and I was too young to audition for The Voice or something like that. So I went, and my parents were like, yeah, let's go. They're always willing to drive me and do whatever. And it was disorienting. It was really, what it did, if I'm to summarize it in any way, is that it taught me that if I'm to do this, if I'm to be an artist, the things that are the quickest roads or look like the easiest path forward are most likely not the way. And the way, in fact, is a lot longer and a lot harder, and a lot more rewarding. Because I was 15 and I came back to Missouri after, being eliminated. And, part of me was like, whoa, that was crazy I did that. And then part of me was like, whoa, that was crazy I did that. And everyone in my high school was like, whoa, that was crazy you did that. And, and they're kind of looking, but in my heart, I kind of felt like, it was my first time feeling shame. And I realized it because that's right when Brene Brown released her TED Talk about shame. And I was like,
I love Brene Brown
I'm
so
feeling,
much.
me too. And hearing her talk about shame actually really saved me, because I realized like, oh, that is actually my response to things when they don't go the way I want them to, is shame. And that's what I felt. And I'm so glad I learned that lesson at a young age. Makes me sad for young Jake, but young Jake is very strong. And anytime there's any sort of defeat now or anything, or win, I know it's because I did that thing. I did that thing that didn't necessarily go as I wished it would have, but I can't change it. I don't want to. So yeah, wait, I'm very curious to hear your experience too. This is very cathartic for me, since it's eerily similar.
Oh man, the aging.
If you want to talk to, I know you.
Archives of my brain. That was so long ago. You know what though? It taught me kind of a similar thing, because I remember when I don't know if I was quite as like mentally mature as you were at the young age of 15. I think I was like 25 I was 23 when I went on to AGT. And like you said, that's just what you did. If you had a unique talent, like that was the talent showcase, to go show it. And I just remember really like drinking the Kool-Aid they fed you when they would be like, this is your make or break. Like, this is your chance, as if it was like the end all be all of my talent career was like placed onto that stage. And I fully like got roped into that mindset. And so I remember when I was voted off the show, and in quite a humiliating fashion. I got the X, I got, pretty harsh critique, but it taught me so much. It taught me to like really dig in and trust, like, do I trust myself and my gut that I have what it takes, or do I trust what that man and random voters in America think? Like, where does my true initiative come from? And so being able to pick myself up off the floor, I think, was such an important moment to make it possible for me to make it as an artist. I had to prove it to myself before I could prove it to anybody else. And then secondly, kind of like you said, I had that same moment of first being really devastated, because that 15 seconds of fame that I thought would change my life, it went, and then it came, and then it was gone, and suddenly no one cared anymore. Like the very next day after I was kicked off, and I thought, well, being on national television didn't do it for me. Then, and I had to learn, like you said, that there's a much longer, harder, slower path, but that's anything that's worth lasting takes that path. So yeah, that was kind of my experience. And it was, I'm always going to be grateful for that experience, because, it sounds like you are as well.
Sure. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful to be able to go through something like that and fail in such a profound way, and continue on. And I think it sounds like you probably realize too that, like, you're an artist, like, and that is so much different than a TV show where they are worried about ratings. It's so much different than streams or followers or subscribers. it's this thing that exists completely outside of that, and it's a choice that we have to make all the time. Like, you know, am I still brave enough to do this? I mean, I think about David Bowie a lot, who failed so many times, you know, like before. And, you know, we think of these people like David Bowie or Prince, or, you know, we think of like, oh, they must have just always been that. And they were not. And, you know, David Bowie is arguably his most iconic period, the Ziggy Stardust. He's playing at the Troubadour. The Troubadour is 350 people, you know, like one of the most iconic albums of all time was performed at the Troubadour. Like it, we have to remember that I think the great people that we are so inspired by are the ones that fail really well and over and over. And it's hard because I feel like you know, but it's not, the word fail is so wrong because it's not. The word success is so wrong because it's not.
So when is your TED Talk?
Oh my God. If I did a TED Talk, I would want it to be about all the presidents who had alleged homosexual tendencies.
That's a very unique take. You should hit them up.
Yeah. I think that's a void. That's missing.
They're like, that plane is wide open. Please come. You're so wise. I feel like beyond your years. And just like you said, the word failure once had such a specific meaning to me, and now it's almost like, oh, it's more like falling gracefully. You know, and then getting up. It's like that's what they teach stunt people, is you just got to learn to fall gracefully, and then they get up and they do the same thing over and over again, and they get better and better and stronger, and so I love that you said that, like that same exact choice you and I both had to make after America's Got Talent, of like, what are we going to let define us, and like how much of us is an artist and how much of us is going to like just be a part of the system. That's a choice we have to make over and over and over again as an artist. I think that, you're constantly trying to balance that. Like, have you found it hard to balance between kind of all the different demands and, I don't even know if I'm being clear, but like the difference between being, like you said, this true artist and then putting things out into the world?
It's something that I've had to think a lot about lately. Like, last year was more growth than I've ever experienced in my music, and it was amazing, and it was also in a weird way traumatizing, because any change, as my therapist has said, any change is trauma, even if it's good. And
I love the therapy voice.
I can like hear it, yeah, exactly. And what happens was, a month or two ago, I was feeling lost and I didn't know why, and something just told me to leave, and I for some reason went to Argentina by myself, and when I was there, I realized that, I heard this voice, this small voice in my head, and it said, the biggest mistake a person ever makes is to see themselves as the world sees them. And I think that's what is the dangerous, that's a slippery slope of, I think, social media in general, is you start to see yourself the way that you want other people to see you, and the way that you think that they're seeing you. And as an artist, or just as a human, our vision of ourselves is everything, specifically as an artist. And I think I lost my vision for a minute. I mean, it sounds like this big, like, dramatic thing. It wasn't that dramatic, but what I came back to is that, like, we don't have to have output 365 days a year. In fact, it would, I think, kill us. And B, like, there's a time for creation, and there's a time for promotion, and I don't think they can exist at the same time for me, because I'm writing kind of my first album, and I was trying to post the songs I was writing for the album on TikTok at the same time I was writing them and trying to write more, and it was just sort of slowly killing me. And so I put a pin in that. I said, manager, label, like, I need to if I'm going to make something great, I need to step back. And luckily I have a beautiful team, and they said, yes, like, do that. And it was scary.
Yeah.
And it was really scary, to be honest. But I'm in it, and I'm owning it, and I'm writing some of my favorite songs I've ever written. So I don't know if they're correlated, but it feels like they're correlated.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I like how you said, like, it's almost impossible to create at the same time as you are like putting stuff out. I literally just went dark on social media for like almost 2 months, pretty much, because I was writing, and I was like, I can't put my brain in both places at the same time. Like, and there has to be times and seasons, and we're not machines. Also, that's But I just remembered I haven't played a single song of yours. This is a radio show, for goodness sake. So, do you mind if I play "The Middle of Love"? Because I think that's such a good song. It's, I think, my favorite song of yours.
That's so sweet. I would be very honored. Thank you.
And first, before we go into it, I would love to hear you talk about kind of what inspired this song.
It's funny. I wrote it when I was in love still, which it kind of sounds like a breakup song, and it actually sort of was. And it's about if anyone here is listening from the South or the Midwest, it's about a fight that I had at a Sonic drive-in, which is a fast food. Yeah, you know. I left that part out of the song for whatever reason. But yeah, it's about love, and it's about how hard love is. And at the time I wrote it, like, my grandma died, and my grandpa was basically dying because she had died. And I was just sort of like looking at love, like, whoa, like, why is it so hard? And why is this love, this thing, like, why is it also killing me and killing him? And shouldn't love set us free? So that's sort of what I was thinking about when I wrote it. Yeah.
That's really profound. Okay, we're going to play "The Middle of Love." You're welcome, everybody. Enjoy. All right, that's so good.
Thank you.
I know you said it's kind of about like a breakup, but the feeling of the song is so it's so exuberant. It's beautiful and colorful. I love it.
Isn't it funny how like songs can we can be like, my favorite songs ever are like, if you actually listen to lyrics, you're like, oh, this is devastating while I'm dancing. I think that's, but I think that's healing, Sorry?
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like a lot of times with like DJ songs, because their music is always supposed to feel happy, but then you listen, you're like, this is horrible.
But that's freedom, right? Like, to be able to put a beat to sadness, or to be able to sort of dance to the hard things.
Heck yeah.
The hard things don't go away,
Yeah.
So
speaking of like love, you write a lot about different themes of love in your music, whether it's like romantic love or self-love. And I feel like that's kind of a big theme for you is self-love and giving grace to yourself. And so what is the best way that you found to do that? Like, what does self-love mean to you?
Ooh, it's a good question. And I ask myself a lot. My most profound moment of self-love, I last fall, I had played my first headline shows, and it was coming out. Obviously, we were still in COVID, and but it was very surreal because before COVID, I could have never imagined playing shows and then selling out, and it was a lot of high, and I did like a late night performance and blah 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 blah, and then I went to England to Wales to go write some songs, and I got to Wales and I got COVID, and I was shocked. I was healthy, I was okay, but I had a complete breakdown in a good way, in a way that, and the reason I had a breakdown is because it was the first time I had breathed in months. And I downloaded, I use Headspace a lot, and I started this pack called Self-Compassion on Headspace because it just felt fitting.
Yeah.
And I just started crying because on, I think, one of the days she was talking about validation, and I realized that I was, I'm sober, and I think I was getting addicted to validation. I was becoming addicted to people telling me I was doing a good job, or letting something, sort of vindicate my experience as, as a human. And I realized I didn't give it to myself. So for me, self-love now, because of that experience, is accepting whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm going through. I did this yesterday. I mean, this last week was really fruitful for me, writing songs, and it was really exciting because for me, one of the best feelings is the first thing we talked about is being surprised by songs, and I was, and I just sort of sat down and I kind of just, this sounds so cheesy, but I was like, hey, Jake, you did that was good. Good job. It's does that feel good? Are you okay? And I do these in private moments because obviously when you're walking around doing that, someone might think something, but we'll maybe let them think something. And I think part of self-love is just accepting whatever you're feeling, and then loving whatever it is you're going through, and loving where you are. And that's hard. That's the work. But for me, acceptance, I think maybe awareness and then acceptance, being aware of what you're feeling and then just accepting it. And then the next step, I guess, would be loving it. Yeah, thank you. It's taken a while.
And well, it's just so cool to see how, I don't know, how just aware you are, and especially you're so young, and you're kind of exploding in this industry, and I feel like you're taking with you such good tools and practices, and I just I'm so grateful that mental health is now such a widely talked about thing. I don't even know what to call it, a thing. But for artists in the past, our predecessors, it wasn't, and it's no wonder that they struggled so much because they didn't have these resources, or even like you said, the awareness. And I think it was Scooter Braun once, he was asked, why do so many artists go through a crazy stage, or why do they, self-destruct sometimes? And his answer was because he said human beings were not meant to be worshipped. It's a very unhealthy thing. Like you said, when people are constantly, validating you, you forget that the very most important thing that you have to do as a human is to internally make sure you're okay and you're accepting yourself. But when you get so much outside, attention, validation, you kind of ignore the part of you that just at the end of the day has to be okay with who you actually are. Yes. And you mask it by what everybody else is saying and all the other voices. So I think that acceptance is one of the most powerful ways to show, like you said, that self-love. And also, I've learned that when I'm being in spots where I'm judgmental of other people, it all stems back to the fact that it's probably just because I'm not fully loving or not fully accepting myself. And that's the only reason I would ever judge somebody else's decisions.
Yes.
And so self-acceptance goes into world acceptance.
Yeah, it's connected because you used to see everybody. And, Maya Angelou used to quote a lot, I'm human, therefore anything human cannot be alien to me. And that's kind of the lens I see the world with lately, is even when I see someone do a terrible thing, terrible thing that I think is terrible, it's the sort of this, oh God, like they're a human. So I guess that means I could have done that. I hope I would have never done that. And maybe that's the heart of forgiveness, and forgiving yourself first is, I think, what allows us to do that. And it's tricky. It's really tricky. It's really hard. It's felt like my life's work up until now is to just forgive myself. Is to just forgive myself. And reminding myself to forgive myself all the time. Because we mess up all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I think, and kind of going back to what we talked about at the very beginning, like, these biblical stories, or, these religious antidotes we've been taught our whole lives. If you look at them as just stories, they teach the most powerful, beautiful messages that all boil down to forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others, and love. And like, that's what it's all about.
Yes, I just wrote this song. I hope it comes out. I really love it right now, but you never know. It's called Jesus Wore a Dress.
Oh,
and it feels like the perfect timing for a song like this, obviously, with all of the hundreds of laws trying to be passed, the anti-LGBTQ laws. And that's it, that for me says it, is literally Jesus wore a dress. Okay, call it a robe, okay, whatever, but like, it's a dress, and the point of that is that, like, forgiveness and love looks different than we could ever imagine it to be. And I'm excited for this world. I'm a dreamer, so I believe in a world that doesn't exist, as I'm living in a world that exists. And maybe that's the Sistine Chapel hands reaching towards each other. And I think as an artist, one of my jobs, or our job, is to maybe bridge those worlds. And perhaps we live into that new world. I don't know. Maybe it's after we're gone. That'd be awesome. We're building the bridge, Lindsey.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. You're a dreamer that dreams of a world that doesn't exist while you live in a world that does exist. Quote, you heard it here first. I'm actually really excited that Pride Month is coming up. I am excited to be a part of, like, how funny is this? I noticed, sorry, my brain. Speaking of Pride Month, we must have just missed each other, because we were both a part of the Pride Eve.
Oh,
video.
really?
And how funny is this? This morning I saw I'd been tagged in a video, from them, and I repost it, and as I'm reposting it, you were the first person that spoke on it.
That's amazing.
And so I was like, whoa, what are the odds? We're both in the Pride Eve video done by Invis.tv. And anyways, I'm really excited to participate. Are you going to the Pride Eve event?
Oh, I'm gonna be out of town last week, and I'm so sad to miss it. But I'm really excited about this, and I can't wait to see how it grows. Because I think it can grow into something really magical. Especially because Pride is sort of this thing that's like, it happens everywhere, and it's there's no one uniform day. So I think it's so fun to May 31st, not the 30th, right? I always forget how many days in the 31st. Pride Eve, yeah. So I wish I was there. Are you going?
I am. I'm gonna go,
Okay.
and it's fun. I've never actually, like, I've always supported the Pride community, but I realized, and I feel like I'm very grateful for the Black Lives Matter movement that made me realize it is very different to not, it's like anti-racism, or are you just not racist? Are you, are you really supporting the communities that you think you support, or that I think I support? And I realized, I was like, I've never been to a Pride event. I say that I support that community, and I've never outwardly shown it. And like, I just got my flag today.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang it in my house, and I'm excited to like, I don't know. I feel like COVID and the whole experience of being locked inside made me realize I need to be more vocal about the things that I stand for, and not just assume that because I don't say anything means I must like them, you know?
Right.
So I'm excited to stand and be a loud supporter. And I'm curious from you, what does Pride mean to you?
Oh, well, first of all, I mean, we need allies. So thank you. You know, we do need people who are standing alongside of us. And for me, pride, I think of that word a lot, pride. You know, you and I probably had a similar teaching of the, you know, pride. You know, pride is one of the deadly sins. But I think this reclamation of this word of being proud, for me, it feels like, oh, this quote, I love this quote. Toni Morrison said, "The function of freedom is to free others." And I remember going to my first Pride when I was 16. One of my best friend's mom drove us all the way to St. Louis to go see Betty Who, which is so surreal now that I've been hanging with her lately, and I just stare at her. I'm like, I downloaded your SoundCloud EP when I was 16, you know. And I remember just walking around. It's like, and that's what pride is. It is showing up as you are, showing up free in order to free others, in order to be yourself. Because, you know, the world I dream of is a world where everything's fluid. Because I feel fluid. You know, I feel fluid in my expression. I think a lot of people do, actually. I think maybe Jesus even did, but that's another conversation. In his dress. But what I mean by that is I dream of a world where there isn't a coming out, and there is just I love this, and I'm going to do this, and I am in this. But where we are now is not there. You know, there are 11-year-old trans kids in Texas who are literally taking their own lives, and so we must show up, and we must be who we are if we're safe to be, in order to show those people that, hey, like, we're here, we're alive, and you can too. And so when these Pride events, they kind of mean a lot to me, because I know they mean a lot to people who cannot be who they are. And that's why I'm so vocal about who I am. It's not to be political. It's not to shove it in anyone's face, whatever that means. It's just that it saves lives, I think. So I think Pride literally saves lives. So that's why I do it. And I'm so glad you're a part of it now too. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And you know, I think that Pride is such a beautiful way, like you said, to just show everyone that they can show up as they are, that anyone, like, whether you like however you want to express yourself. And I love that, like, it's represented by so many different colors. It's all about self-love, self-compassion, and showing up as you are, and knowing that, like, you're safe there. And I just think it's such a beautiful, like you said, a beautiful future that I want to, you know, I want to be one of the many voices that, like, it's just a small, like, thread in the tapestry of, like, building this new world of acceptance. And because truly, like, nobody's safe to love themselves if there are people that, you know, that don't accept others. You know, nobody's safe to love themselves if we live in a world like that. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be a part of, and I just appreciate all the work you do to bring art and love and, you know, like, this part of life to its fullness. I think it's amazing.
Thank you, Lindsay. I mean, we need as many voices as possible. We really do. So I'm very grateful for you being part of it, and for getting the word out there, because it is a crucial time. We've made so much progress, and there's so much backlash because we've made so much progress. It's a good sign, you know. Anytime there's this much backlash, it must mean that someone in some room is very afraid of what's happening, and that's a good thing. But but it is a very crucial time. And this year, these midterms are going to be very, very crucial in literally saving lives of many people for many reasons. Obviously, anyone who's aware of anything that's happening right now, it's like we always say, like, this is a really important election. This is a really important election, and we always hear that. And sure, yes, they're all important, but for me, I have my issues, and I zoom in on them, and I think this one's going to really matter in our legacy as like a country.
Yeah.
In so many reasons.
Yeah, it's been a change that has slowly happened through our lives. And like I said, it's like as it starts to see signs of backsliding, it's like, no. No, we need to get behind this and push it forward still. Like, I'm not going to let it backslide on my watch. I want to actually give you an opportunity before we run out of time and lose you. What are some things that you are excited about? Like whether it's things you're working on, or I know you have some shows, a tour coming up soon, so I want to give you a chance to talk about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm playing some festivals this summer. I'm actually playing, I'm really excited to play WeHo Pride in LA, June 4th. It'll be so fun. Next week, though, June 1st, I'm announcing a very special tour, and that's probably all I'm really allowed to say.
Okay.
But so very soon, though, and I've been waiting to announce this for a long time.
Okay, well, I'm so excited. I don't know how, but somehow I have it in my notes. I am so glad I didn't say anything.
That's great. I mean, I don't think I haven't signed an NDA, but you know how these things go. When
you've been waiting to announce it, and I'm like,
I know, like, yes, because I love, I love performing, and that's where I feel so much just joy, and other than that, I'm working on my little first album, and it's surprising the hell out of me. So I hope it also surprises the hell out of anyone who listens to it.
I can't wait. We are ready to be surprised. Thank you so much. Everyone stay tuned for, tour dates soon to be announced. And again, just thank you for coming on and just sharing so much wisdom and insight with us. And I, for one, I just want to end with this. So you were featured on one of Sir Elton John's radio shows. And he said, and I quote, "I love him because he reminds me of me when I was starting out." That is the freaking cool. Like, did your mind just explode?
Yeah, that hit me like 4 months later, and I just started crying in a grocery store.
Oh, as most wonderful things in life do. Well, anyways, I just wanted to end with that because it's so cool, and you've just done so much, and I cannot wait to see where you go. So thanks again for chatting with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. Oh, this has been such a pleasure, and I sure hope we get to hang out in person one of these days.
Yes.
Somewhere, somehow.
Somehow. I'm gonna look at June 4th and see if there's a way I can make it out, because that would.
Oh, yes.
I was gonna say I can't wait to see a live performance.
Oh my God! Wait, yeah. Have your people contact my people. Am I allowed to say that?
Well, get it, Drake. I'll have the peeps talk to your peeps.
We'll get you in there. We'll get you a big rainbow costume, and we'll get you there.
Okay, well, I'm sold. I am definitely sold.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, have the best rest of your day, and hopefully we will talk soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Okay, bye.
I think I'm obsessed with him.
He's so cool, so inspiring.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I was just shocked at how wise he is.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, how old are you?
I cannot wait to just follow his career.
I know, because
oh my gosh,
it's really fun when you discover someone and you feel like you're part of the, like on Instagram or TikTok.
I was a fan first back in the day.
Right? When people just comment first on a video because they're like, I was the first one to see it. Like, that's how I love it when you find out that you feel like you're first.
Oh, I love it.
I saw him early, even though,
what an incredibly wise soul.
Yeah.
you know. But I feel like when you go through what he did,
Yes.
and having his personality and his character and his soul, and going through what he did, you can't help but be wise.
Mhm.
You know, you can't help but have that sort of love and empathy in you that gives you that personality, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm obsessed. I'm automatically just going and adding his music to my playlists.
Right. No, he's got such great music. Also, during the interview, Fish and I, like, Fish had pulled up like some of his images
Oh my
from
gosh.
just his like album artwork, or like
Yeah.
photo shoots. I highly recommend everybody go search and just do a Google search, and you'll see Jake Wesley Rogers. He's an icon.
Jake, if you're still listening, I may be making a mood board for the next photo shoot that Lindsay and I do.
Oh, let's
Of
do it.
just your photos.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff there.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. Well, I want to play one more of his songs. I never want to play too much music when I have a guest on, because I'm like, I'd rather just talk to
They're
you.
so interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to waste a moment.
Yeah.
But I think I'll play. Let's do Lavender Forever. I think it's one of his more recent songs.
Nice.
And the artwork on it is stunning, and the song as well is amazing. So here we go. Here's Lavender Forever. All right. Well, thank you guys all for hanging out with us today. Like I said, I look forward to Wednesdays. This is so fun for me, and I think Fish looks forward to it too.
Yes, I do. I do.
It's radio day. So, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I don't even know, what do I say?
Love one another.
Love one another. Like, I feel like it was all said in the interview. Call someone tonight and tell them you love them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you with that, and I'm gonna call my mom as soon as I hang up.
Oh, nice.
All right, bye everybody. Have a good rest of your week.